believe it or not, I mean, we've been cash flow positive since we started, and we laugh, my wife and I, about, I mean, we don't have a marketing budget. I mean, we've done all this just through PPC with Amazon.
Hey guys, Dan Eakers here. I'm the founder of GearBunch.com.
Hey, this is Paul Johnson with MassView.
This is Josh Krause of IceHomeArcadeGames.com.
And you're listening to
you, and you're listening
to the Ecomm Show.
Welcome to the Ecomm Show, presented by BlueTuskr, the #1 place to hear the inside scoop from other e-commerce experts, where they share their secrets on how they scaled their business and are now living the dream. Now, here is your host, Andrew Math.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ecomm Show. I'm your host, Andrew Math, and today I am joined by Pete Weisberg of Zoco Products. Pete, how you doing?
Great. How are you, Andrew?
Doing good. Very excited about this one. Your background's amazing. So I'm really excited to kind of dig into this and see where this takes us. It'd be really interesting. But per usual, let's do the stereotypical thing. Why don't I give you kind of a chance here to let everyone know, your background, where you've been, where you're from. We'll go from there. Okay.
Sure. So I got my start mainly in sourcing and supply chain back in the late 80s, early 90s, when it really wasn't that popular of a topic, unlike today, where everyone's like, what the heck's going on with our supply chain? Like, everyone's taking it for granted. But yeah, I started off really at Intel in Phoenix, Arizona. And, at the time, Intel was kind of like the Google of the 90s. It was like, they would hockey puck, stock price going crazy. You couldn't produce enough semiconductors. And so I worked with a lot of smart people, learned a really cool culture that I think is now, kind of permeated into Facebook and Google's and all the high tech. So I did that for 5 or 6 years, worked for a couple of other Fortune 500 companies, all in sourcing and supply chain related areas. And then in 2006, my wife had the idea, which started as safety magnets. And basically, we had our first daughter, and just like a lot of new parents, you go and you take the proverbial first aid training, and they're like, okay, this is overwhelming. What do I do if this really happens? Like CPR, what do we do? And they're like, well, just look at this pamphlet, they would give you. I'm like, pamphlet? We're just going to throw this thing in a junk drawer. I mean, we need a magnet. So we created safety magnets. So this is kind of our flagship product here. And really, it's just CPR on a refrigerator magnet. And this is a memo board. I'm like, all right, what's the big deal? Handing it out to babysitters. But pretty soon, real estate agents were saying, hey, we want to put our logo on this thing, because the shelf life of CPR is like, you don't throw that away. You put it up on your refrigerator and it stays, unlike, the Washington football team, football schedule that may disappear after 6 months. So it was a hobby. I kind of pushed on my wife to kind of pursue it more. And, long story short, we now have about 300 SKUs. We're into posters, coloring books. Amazon effect took us in 2015. And then just recently, we've really tried to focus more on Shopify like everybody else in Walmart. So that's been kind of the biggest challenge so far.
Yeah. What made you finally decide to start diversifying? Oh,
man. I mean, there's so many. Amazon, I mean, between just their ever-changing policies, and I mean, one day, you could have a listing, a variation that just disappears. I mean, right now we're being challenged because of product compliance thinks that, if we have something on wear a cloth mask, that somehow there's some kind of, something that's going to come after us and they're going to close the listing down. So, we can't put all our eggs in one basket. But I think also it's just, we've now have found the time. So it's my wife and I, we have a couple of virtual assistants, but we've been doing it ourselves. And this is kind of the period of the year where we start to look for, kind of exercise on our strategy. Our back to school season is usually in the summer. Mm-hmm. So it's just a logical thing to do. And I could go on and on about all the opportunities that we still have.
And you have a pretty wider range of wider range of products. Like I know you mentioned obviously the CPR magnet, but you also have like a ton of other stuff. So who is your ideal customer?
Yeah, so it's interesting because yesterday I'll put a plug out. I had my MBA from University of Maryland, and I went back to the school a couple of nights ago because did you you know about it? Yeah, no, it's they have a thing called the startup shell. And so I was able to go back and kind of do a little workshop with them, and they kind of asked a similar question. In business school or whatever, that they teach about segmentation, who's your core audience, and all that stuff. It really, we have some core audiences. Our school teachers are probably our biggest audience. Yeah. But I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid here, but everybody can use our product. I mean, when we saw that the schools were closed, we thought, oh my gosh, no one's going to buy our posters. But what happened was homeschooling came along. So now we've got so many different products that, could be designed or are designed for the home. So now you're talking about every Joe, parent out there might need to teach their kids, parts of speech, and they want to drill into them. Here's all the different parts of speech, or, how to do orders of operation for math. Coloring books, we have daycare centers, we have hospitals, all kinds of different segments. So it's kind of a cop out. I feel bad in saying it because, probably one of my marketing professors would come back after me and go, you don't know who your audience is. And it is true. And that is one of the things we want to spend more of our time with, because believe it or not, I mean, we've been cash flow positive since we started, and we laugh, my wife and I, about, we don't have a marketing budget. We've done all this just through PPC with Amazon. So if we do start really investing in this, I think we have a lot of headroom.
Yeah. Product lines where you're basically open to the general public. Like, there's definitely ones out there. Like, you use the most obvious of an iPhone, like almost anyone theoretically could be a customer with disposable income for it. Yeah. So have you thought about what your marketing strategy is going to look like once you kind of start looking into, ramping up on Shopify?
Yeah, actually we grow up. I know it's like, okay, we're into this now for a few years. Like, didn't we come out with a really good plan? We know where our soft spots are, and we know where their opportunity is. So for example, our B2B business is very, has a lot of upside to it. We have a couple of other websites, safetymagnets.com, which is more of our business to business site, but it's going to be folded into Shopify. But we think about school right now. We're buying, school teachers buy usually individually. So you probably know it's kind of a pain. They have to fund their own curriculum or their own posters and supplies. Yeah. But school districts do buy en masse, and restaurants that want our CPR and choking posters the chains will buy en masse. And we have not targeted them at all. So that's a huge opportunity for us. The B2B space. Shopify, Walmart, we might have other, marketplaces that are coming up. We're in Canada. We're not anywhere in Europe. We've been offered to come to Australia. And then there's product lines. So, we have 4 or 5 product families right now, but a lot of what we've learned is how to take, and this is not rocket science, I'm sure a lot of your other speakers say the same thing, but basically how to take big mass quantities of things and break them and bundle them down into things that a small, either a consumer or a small business can use. So
yeah. So you're obviously, I'm assuming a majority of your business is on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
So you were on, was it the Amazon Customer Advisory Board, correct?
Yes.
What was that like?
What was that like? It's a trip.
And what is it?
Exactly? Yeah. So in my last job that I worked at a big construction company, a specialized geotechnical company. And I got to play both buyer and seller. not directly, but because I was the vice president of sourcing for the organization, and kind of like what I forgot the guy's name from one of your last speakers who was talking about, he's out there doing all the construction related supplies, or MRO. Forgot the guy's name, but you had him on a couple of weeks ago. But he was taking over the universe with like all these different product lines, the Grangers and everything like that. Well, we also bought from the Grangers and kind of maintenance, repair, and overhaul or operations suppliers. But Amazon's trying to get into that space. Mm-hmm. So I got hooked up with them through this construction company and was brought out to Seattle. And it's kind of like, the Wizard of Oz. I mean, you're kind of going in through the palace of, and I was a little bit familiar from my days with Intel, but it's crazy. So here's what happens. They take you into the room, they take you into a boardroom, and you sit down. So the people there are other big companies, like, probably shouldn't mention the names, but big companies that are there. We were the smallest of the ones for sure. Mm-hmm. And you think it's just going to be a few people, but what happens is the Amazonians, they come in and they flank you on both sides. So you're sitting at this conference table, and they come in almost like it is like out of the I don't know, Willy Wonka or Wizard of Oz, one of these really weird fairy tale type things, because they sit in the room and they just take out their little clipboards and they don't say a word. They just say, "Oh, don't mind us, we're just taking notes." And they just write, and they're writing, and they're typing, and they're typing. And what they do, so the customer advisory board, this one happened to be on commercial customer advisory, and what they were trying to figure out is, what's the next step? From an Amazon, it was Amazon business. So from an Amazon business standpoint, what do you guys really want? So, things like the delivery in an hour, those were clear topics. This was a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. The Uber of trying to find you rather than you being in an Amazon locker and having to go pick something up, can we make it so that Amazon comes and finds you, which is especially appealing for construction people that are, the foremen that are out in the construction yard. It's like, it could be a mile construction yard. Like, I need you to come find me and give me that widget that I need. But it was awesome. Unfortunately, COVID came in. We were supposed to meet again, and it kind of shifted hands. But that was
the idea of Amazon acting and running like Willy Wonka is fantastic. So I really appreciate that analogy.
Yeah, you're all walking around, and they took us on tours. But yeah, that's like we didn't want to fall into the proverbial chocolate factory or pool of chocolate. But it was just and they check you, and you got to sign a bunch of things, and you're not gonna they'll take your firstborn if you don't know anything, right?
What I wouldn't give for like an Oompa Loompa version song just redone for Amazon would be fantastic.
Oh, I know.
Anyway,
one other thing on that was kind of cool is, so I mentioned there were two parts. So I came in leading the sourcing organization for this construction company, and everybody there was a buyer. I was the only one there that said, by the way, guys, I also sell into Amazon. So they're like, oh, okay, well, what do you know? How does that relate? I'm like, well, when you big companies think that you're buying from Amazon, you're buying from me. Again, reminding you that 50% of the sales from Amazon are coming from third-party sellers. Mm-hmm. So we got talking about quality at the time. And they're like, you don't really know what you're getting. Because there were big oil refinery companies there. There were some consumer product companies there. And they were like, oh, really? So this isn't all coming from Amazon. So I didn't want to, I don't want to step on my my being there, but it was kind of funny to hear that dialogue, and I got it was a good time.
Yeah. Do you think anything will come of that meeting?
Oh, I mean, they're already operating on some of that stuff. I mean, Amazon Business at the time, I mean, that was their fastest. I think after MWS, it was their fastest growth segment, and the thing that they're trying to do with construction now is definitely in play. I mean, they are just, the stuff that you see on how they're doing quantity discounts and how they're trying to do, which they've done, but they're also trying to do, I forgot what they call it, but just a lot more bundling. It blows me away. I don't know if you feel this way too, but I mean, Amazon allows you to bundle things together, and they let the consumer bundle with the kind of like, hey, we also think you should buy this with that.
Yeah.
You know what you said? But why don't they let the sellers try to help bundle cross product? Like if I'm selling a CPR magnet and some other seller is selling a CPR mask shield, like, hey, why don't I pick that out and put my own bundle together? I never understood that, but.
That would actually be very interesting. Well, you'd almost have to develop like a relationship with that other seller, because there'd be so many of these small, grimy little Amazon sellers that I see all the time where they'd be like, oh, I sell a mug and I would like to also offer my mug every time someone buys a iPhone case. And it's kind of like, okay, well, those two things don't really work. But if you could actually like develop relationships between two sellers and they each approve it, that would actually be very interesting. I love that.
Well,
idea.
Yeah, I mean, they could provide the introduction, and I don't know if you've gotten these things, but I don't get as much of them. But now when you get a big business customer, they could propose, an Amazon business customer can propose to you as the seller that they want to buy large amounts. And so you come back to them. It's like a real RFP and say what the price is. So I think it's going to happen. I mean, they're, how can they continue to grow? They're trying everything. I mean, they're on this exponential trend. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
So you have, obviously, as you mentioned, a big background in sourcing and supply chain and all that fun stuff. So the question I really was excited to ask you, because for all of our listeners who don't know, we are recording this prior to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all the big holidays, but it won't go out until probably after all that. My guess is early January. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are on what's going to happen with supply chain this quarter. And then we're going to turn back to this episode in January and we're going to find out if you're right or not.
Well, it's going to be painful. I mean, I can't say that I have any great knowledge other than the prognosticators that are out there. I think it's going to be painful, but I think people are already expecting the pain. So I think it's going to be, record sales. E-commerce is going to continue to continue to skyrocket. A lot of pent up demand. I think the stockouts are going to be, here's my prognosis. I think there will be less stockouts than people are fearing. I think, we're already advanced buying. I think people are doing that. I think they've seen the news with the big ports out in LA and the ships out there. So I think people are starting to get that. So the surprise factor, unlike past years where like, holy cow, things are sold out. I think I'd like to believe that retail has a little bit better handle on it this year. And I think consumers are going to be a little bit more patient this year because they're just happy to be out of COVID. So that's kind of what I think is going to happen.
Yeah. I know that as a Walmart, Target, I think TJ Maxx, and a couple other big retailers I saw they chartered their own freight just because they were like, we're going to have to go around the port, which is obviously great if you can afford it. Fantastic. But I also see a lot of sellers that are kind of catering to like a gift card approach, or they started their sales really early. Like I started getting like our Black Friday sale starts today, like end of October. Like basically Halloween ended and people were like, it's Black Friday. I'm like, it's not, but
yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah. I am. It's going to be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah. So back to Zoco. What is sourcing that product like? Like that's your background. So I would imagine you have the whole, I imagine you have operations as like a very well-oiled machine.
I like to think I do. My wife will sometimes say, she's could be my biggest constructive critic, but I mean, I like to believe it's a key differentiator. I mean, I'll just tell you first, I mean, we're all domestic and that's helped us, especially now. But one of the things that I feel good about that I did in my past career is I've trained our suppliers on Amazon, and now I'm getting into Shopify. So I see all these horror stories of people sending things to Deliverr or whatever fulfillment center, and they're just losing inventory and all this kind of jazz. And instead, I'm kind of a lean guy, lean manufacturing. So I'm like, okay, if I could train my printers to also be fulfillers, then I've cut out the middleman. I could do FBM and I could do FBA, and I could pivot a lot faster. I'm much more agile, as they would say. And it took a little bit of time. So our suppliers are pretty trained on Amazon now. Mm-hmm. And I keep inventory. What's great about us too is that we're pretty much, we have inventory for sure, but we can, it doesn't cost, the print materials like posters doesn't really cost that much. If it's all about quantity, so you have to learn how to do the right copy changes, and you have to learn how to, we've gotten a lot. My wife has an awesome track record at product development, and when we roll things out, but if it doesn't work, like, we just move on to our next product. So we can make a batch of different things, try them out, and then decide whether things are taken off or not, and scale accordingly. And I think that's a great luxury in our supply chain that a lot of other product lines do not have.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Yeah. So you, forgive me because I can't remember. You either already have passed 7 figures annually, or you're going to this year, correct?
Yeah, we just did. No, we did last
Congrats.
12 months. Thank you. And we've grown the last couple of years. So I think we're 35, 40% up over last year, and we're probably another 30% up over the year before that. Knock wood. And the key, I feel a little bit like we're kind of starting over again, because Amazon was, I want to say, relatively easy. And, now we've got this big bear with the Shopify. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, we're kind of, like kids in a candy store. And I've learned that you've got to be careful with Shopify, because you go in there and you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, I had an app here, I'll add an app there. Yippee, man, this is working. And then all of a sudden they're like, your website is like going slow, and this app doesn't talk to this app, and the developer is no longer supporting you. And you're like, holy cow, what just happened? So they don't tell you that part of it.
E-commerce is all bubble gum and gumdrops, and it's all you got to do is upload a product, and then we're all rich.
Yeah, and the thing is, so Andy Grove, who's the founder of Intel, had a famous saying: "Only the paranoid survive." And I was talking about the strong culture there, and that really kind of taught me. But you can't, verify but trust, or trust but verify, or whatever. And no bad intentions. I think people have the right intentions, but they're drinking their app. They're on their Kool-Aid. They're like, oh yeah, it'll do exactly what you want it to do. Like, we're trying to figure out how to a big growth area of the business consumer is customizing things. If they want to buy a magnet, a refrigerator magnet, or they want to buy one of our coloring books, they want to put their logo on and they want to hand it out as a giveaway. Okay. And we've done that all, for a long time now through our other website. Shopify, you would think it would be an easy thing to do. You could get the app that will help you add the logo, and you can get the app that will provide a minimum quantity to do it, but there's not really, you can need a developer. Mm-hmm. And it's like, really? Is it that hard? Oh yeah, we could do that. But as soon as you do that, it's going to cause this, this other problem. And then they're not, and then I've really learned to see what their support model is. I thought Shopify would say, all right, everyone's on one standard, Shopify service level agreement to get back to you at this period of time. But I don't know. I don't know if you're seeing it or hearing it any differently, or what the deal is, but, and that's just Shopify.
With their support.
Yeah. Well, the support, and then so that's just, setting up your website. Then you got to figure out, who do I use my chat with? Who do I use my social media with? Who do I have inventory management across the board with Walmart, or do I listing management? This, the technology stack, as they call it. And you're like, I just find myself talking to people all day, to get references. What does this guy use? And so that's always interesting.
Yeah. We use, there's a Google Chrome plugin called Built With, and you can actually select it and it will just tell you if it's built on Shopify, all the apps they're using, and you can actually see like how they're using it. But to your point, like Shopify got so big so fast that everyone wanted to get involved. So they all started creating these apps. Then there's 500 different apps that all do the same thing. And then you have one for upsell, one for downsell, one for cross sell, and you have all these different apps going. And I think that's why this whole like headless concept has really started to pick up, is because people have realized like all these apps just don't work together. So what they've started to do is just build like completely custom sites, which is not cheap. And then just have Shopify be the back end, which is great. But you got to build an entire custom site. And then you have a different problem, which is typically you have like one or two developers that know how it was built. And, you know, you lose one of them and you're screwed.
Right.
So it's kind of like...
And then wasn't it the whole purpose of Shopify as a company to get out of that kind of customization space? It was supposed to be open source. You put, you know, here, everything's rosy, you put stuff in, but you're right. It's like an overcrowded house now. Everybody and his brother puts these things together. And the Shopify, when you go search on a Shopify app, I don't know if you feel the same way, but it sucks. Like they don't provide it. The search is like, okay, put in your keyword. You can put in customization. You'll get like 1,000 results back. And then it's like, do you mean it by, you know, on the left side, like by, you know, are you looking for customer service? Or are you looking for inventory management? Like, how about giving it to me by supplier or the app developer or cost or a normal filter? So I don't know.
They don't realize they have so many apps now that they've basically created a search engine of apps, but they did not set it up that way. So all these app developers have figured out like, oh, I just got to throw these keywords in here and I'm going to show up for everything, because who wouldn't want my free shipping banner app up at the top? Like it is, I agree. It's completely ridiculous.
Right. And then there's the whole thing about deleting your app and like, go make sure you save your theme before you delete your app. Like, okay, but it just says there's this little button that says delete app. It will remove the code, but don't trust that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Now I got to pay somebody to like scan my whole theme to see if there's some, you know, nefarious code on there that's going to crater me. Anyway.
So take that, Shopify.
So we went to Walmart after that, but anyway, that's a whole nother. I'm sure you've heard. I don't know,
we need another episode for that one.
Oh, God.
So, what is it you think that kind of, because you guys obviously have had some nice growth over the past couple of years. What do you think it is that kind of like helped you guys continuously get to that point and surpass that target?
Yeah, you know, it may sound like an easy answer, but I'll tell you what. And my wife will she's introverted and doesn't want to be here, but I mean, it's her. I mean, I'll tell you, she creates products, and if you take posters, like, okay, Pete, really, Zoco, you make posters? Like, that sounds like a really boring thing, but it's not, because I think she has this knack of looking for things, and like, if you like, we all went to school and you had like some kind of classroom rules, like, you know, do not chew gum, do not swear, do not, you know, blah blah blah. It was like a bullet point list. It was very boring, and nobody ever looked at it. So she'll take the same thing and make it really cool and put a lot of color to it, and, you know, make it kind of, you know, the fonts kind of stand out. So I definitely think she's good at creating things and trying things out. I think we, you know, maybe not a cliche, we take care of our customers. You know, we have good product, a lot of cheap kind of international product. The lamination falls apart. We are made in the USA. And, you know, we're going to kick off actually a charity, because, you know, we have goodwill product. That's the other thing that's really cool about us. I mean, you know, people, I think our ranking feedback is like very close to 5 and thousands of reviews. And I think we like to take care of the customer, but I think also when you get a CPR poster, or you get parts of a circle poster, or you get one of our coloring books, and it's like, most people that are ordering that stuff, they're kind of nice people. They're not like, you know, you can't get a fireman who's you know, going to order a CPR poster or a doctor's office, and they usually are thankful that they got the product. So I think that's helped with our overall reviews and our ratings. I think I mentioned before, I think our cost structure is better than most for our size. because I do have a pretty good eye on cost and on supply chain. Yeah, I mean, I think those are probably the biggest areas.
So you obviously have a nice background prior to this. You're in some pretty big companies, relatively doing the same thing. Now you've started your own thing. What's the end goal? Like, is your thought to hand this down one day? Is your thought to sell it? Like, what are you growing it to be?
Well, Zoco is actually named after our daughter, but that doesn't mean she's going to want it or needs it or any of that stuff. So she's in school. I'm in Maryland actually, but it's a great problem to have. I think we both want to stick with us for at least another 5 years. We may sell some of the assets. Like, I'm not necessarily opposed to selling safety magnets. I think safety magnets has never. We started with safety magnets, and then we quickly realized, or not quickly, it took us a few years, that if we really want to extend our product line, safety magnets is pretty limiting. And we started getting orders on our posters. People were like, "Oh, this is a great poster. Where's the magnet?" And we're like, "Nah, it just happens to be like, don't." So then we went to like safety magnets plus, and then we're like, you know what, we got to start a whole new thing. So we started Zoco, but the safety magnets brand is pretty good, and in the right hands of the right company. I mean, you should think a company like Grainger, or an OSHA-based company that's selling OSHA supplies. Like, that's our trademark brand. I'd like to believe that somebody out there listening may come along and approach us and go, "Yeah, we'll take that. They'll take that brand from you, and we'll take these products." And if they do that, then we'll be fine. Still moving on with Zoco. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of other things that we want to do there.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But I love what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not. I think right now, I work when I work kind of when I want to work. But we'll keep going. I mean, we've got another 5 years. My wife will say, she would like to get out of it, but
yeah. Hey, that's the way it's done, though.
Yeah,
that's great that you have that nice balance, especially after you built it up to this point. But Pete, really appreciate having you on the show. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Sure. This is that stereotypical time I give you your moment to shine and let everyone know a little bit more about Zoco, where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're not huge yet on social media, but we are, I think, Facebook.com, what is it? Zoco Products. I think I put it in there. We're going to be building out that site. But obviously, ZocoProducts.com, you can find us there. And, we keep listening to your ideas. I mean, we get school teachers, give us ideas all the time and say, "Hey, we really don't have." I mean, we thought wearing a mask was going to go away, and in COVID, people were getting inoculated, and it was going to be fine. It's not. So Melissa, my wife, developed a kind of a cool little wear a mask for like kids. So it says like, it's kind of cartoonish. But if you have a need and it's print related, let us know your thoughts. And I appreciate the time.
Perfect. Pete, really appreciate having on the show. Yep. Everyone who tuned in, obviously, really appreciate you guys listening in. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcast platform you prefer. Check us out at ecommshow.com, us on YouTube, whatever you'd like. But once again, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all next week. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ecomm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The Ecomm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of the Ecomm Show.